Hey gang, it's Squill, and is it just me, or is media literacy kinda dying? Like, I don't know, it feels like every time a show or movie is slightly vague about something, people take away the worst interpretations possible. What's that? Aang showed a little bit of favoritism towards his only airbending child? Well, obviously that means he hated his other kids. What's that? Anne, Sasha, and Marcy weren't quite as close after the events of Amphibia? Well, obviously that means they stopped being friends entirely, even though the show itself says the exact opposite. And then these people will get mad at the shows themselves for interpretations that they made up. It sucks because it feels like shows aren't allowed to be vague or subtle anymore without people taking away the obviously wrong interpretation. But easily one of the biggest examples I can think of is with Finn in Adventure Time. It genuinely astonishes me just how many people think Finn's life was miserable after the events of Come Along With Me. When it comes to the discourse surrounding Finn's life post Come Along With Me, there are two major points that people bring up, and I want to use this opportunity to dispute them. The first claim that people make is that Finn's life was miserable because he ended up single. And I'm sorry, but this point is so dumb. The idea that having a partner means you're happy and not having a partner means you're unhappy is such a black and white view of the world that I genuinely feel embarrassed for anyone who holds this opinion. Most of the drama surrounding Finn in the first half of the show came from his girl problems. Both him getting hurt by PB and Finn himself hurting Flame Princess so bad seriously affected his mental health. It makes sense that he'd want to step away from the dating scene for a while, wouldn't you? Finn is shown to be a much happier and more emotionally healthy person the more he focuses on himself and the less he focuses on his romantic relationships. Adventure Time has never shown that Finn is happier with romance in his life, and if anything, consistently goes out of its way to show the exact opposite. The more romance Finn has in his life, the less rational he is as a person. Hence why he avoids a relationship with Huntress Wizard, because even though he likes her, he doesn't want to hurt her like he did Flame Princess. But speaking of which, just because Finn ends up single by the end of the original series, doesn't mean he never had another girlfriend. Or a boyfriend, who said that? It's heavily implied in The Wild Hunt that Finn and Huntress Wizard could potentially start up a relationship. And this is probably something we would have seen had the show not been cancelled. Or it's entirely possible that Finn would have found someone else. I mean, keep in mind, Finn was only 17 by the end of the original series. That is very young. How many people find the love of their life by the time they're 17? I'm sure there's a few, but it can't be that many. Even after Come Along With Me, I'm sure Finn still had a ton of growing and maturing to do, just like most people. But regardless of whether or not he was in a romantic relationship, Finn still had a ton of people in his life who cared about him. He had a whole family who loved and supported him. It's asinine to try and claim that it's all meaningless because he didn't have a girlfriend. The idea that you need to have a romantic partner in order to be happy is genuinely damaging, and I really hope that the people who say stuff like this do some serious self-reflecting. But with that, we move on to our second claim, that being that Finn was miserable after Jake's death. Now, unlike the last claim, there's at least some amount of truth to this one. I think most of it comes from this scene in Together Again, where Finn tells Jake that he was waiting to see him again and that losing him was the worst thing that ever happened to him. And yeah, I'm sure Finn was depressed for a while after losing Jake. Finn and Jake had been there for each other throughout their entire lives. Jake is easily the most important person to Finn. So yeah, it's pretty natural that Finn would have fallen into a depressive slump after losing Jake. That would reasonably happen to anyone who lost someone so important to them. But come on, to say that Finn spent the entire rest of his life miserable over Jake is just ridiculous. Yes, losing Jake probably did mess Finn up for a while, but guess what? Jake wasn't the only person in Finn's life. Even without Jake, Finn still would have had a solid support group of people. Just like I said before, Finn still had a whole family who loved and cared for him. I'm sure characters like PB, Marcy, or Simon totally would have been there for Finn while grieving over Jake. And hey, would you look at that, by Obsidian, Finn has even made peace with Jake's death, even getting a tattoo of him on his chest. I swear, it's like the people who argue that Finn was miserable in his adult life just intentionally ignored this scene. Finn is clearly very happy here, he's dancing and having a good time. He probably started going on adventures with Bronwyn. Even as an old man near death, Finn was still going on adventures. Obviously, Jake's death would have taken a toll on him, but he clearly didn't let it weigh him down. And by the end of Together Again, Finn is willing to get reincarnated even without Jake. Finn clearly saw his life as something worth living, regardless of whether or not Jake's in it. Trying to claim that Finn's life was miserable either because he was single or because he lost Jake completely misses the point of his journey in both the original series and Together Again. Finn is a special person, and he is worthy of respect. The character has definitely faced his highs and lows throughout the course of the show, but through it all, he's managed to come out a better and more self-actualized person. He's a very special and important character to me, and I wanted to put some respect on his name. Squill, out.